Доброго дня, це Укрінформ, як ви нас чуєте? Вімкніть, будь ласка, мікрофон в зумі.
Так.
О, добре, ми вас чуємо. Ви нас чуєте? Супер, через хвилину починаємо. Дякую. Зараз з вами порозмовляє ще перекладач. Скажіть, будь ласка, ви його чуєте чи ні?
Прекрасно чую, дякую, добрий день.
А чи чуєте ви мене зараз?
Ми стартуємо. Олеже, і поки йде обратно отчет, будь ласка, зацвердіть трішки світлішу Олю.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. My name is Olha Atamanova, and I would like to thank the representatives of all the mass media who join us today, and thank you for continuing to giving publicity to the war and telling the world the truth about it. Today is day 734 of the full-scale invasion, so thank you very much for continuing doing your job. So today we have invited you to discuss a very interesting topic. We will be talking about the support of Ukrainian culture. The project is exercised with the support of the European Union, and today we're about to present it. So the initiative called RES-POL, it's a quick expert support of the culture and media policies in Ukraine, is carried out with the financial backing from the European Union and is scheduled to run until the March of 2025. Let me introduce our speakers today. Joining us are Rostislav Karandeev, Acting First Deputy Minister of Culture and Information Policy, Volodymyr Vorobey, Director of the Regional Development Center, Head of the RES-POL Project Expert Group, and also joining us online is Tetyana Shulga, Sectoral Manager for Culture, Human Rights, Gender Equality and National Minorities at the Delegation of the European Union representation in Ukraine. So, Mr. Minister, let me give the floor to you. Let's talk about the importance of this project and importance of the support. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, we have invited you to announce that a new interesting and important project is being started in Ukraine. It's focused, in this case, as you've heard, on the issues of culture and information policy, but given the fact that today culture is yet another factor that supports the defense of our country, formulates the level of the spirit, morale, and resilience that helps our people and our armed forces to resist in this war, we think that culture cannot be postponed for later. This later should not come after the war, after our victory, and not even tomorrow, but today. All the issues related to culture are pressing. Everything which is related to adaptation of the managerial decisions to the existing realities. Everything is present. The change of formats that were implemented in the activity of cultural institutions should be reformatted, and we should understand that the beginning of the war expedited certain positive processes, and one of such processes is the accession of Ukraine to the European community. Regardless of the fact that the decisions were taken in a prompt manner, still it vests a lot of responsibility in us as a country and society to fulfill all the requirements of the European Union on the way of candidacy to this organization. Thus, we have to continue thinking to make sure that all the regulations, all those protocols that are in effect in the area of culture should to be synchronized with the legislation of European Union and to be in compliance with European approaches. So Ukraine logically joins the European community in all areas, including the cultural area. This is why I want to thank the initiative team headed by Mr. Volodymyr Vorobey, our colleague. He will have the floor on behalf of himself, on behalf of the experts, and I want to thank everybody without whom this project would have been impossible. The delegation of European Union in Ukraine, Ms. Tetyana Shulga, I want to thank you, thank our European partners for understanding our problems, our needs, and readiness, and not even the readiness, but the real actions aimed at the support of our initiatives and tasks related to solution of the problems set in front of us. The project is not permanent. It has a specific time frame, specifically 15 months, and within those 15 months we are supposed to have all of the parties involved, all of the experts, all those powerful think tanks, other scientific institutions, all experience and practice. We have to develop all those solutions that allow us to solve the existing problems. What are the problems? Is the absence of synchronicity of Ukrainian cultural legislation and European cultural legislation, existence of the problems related to the activities of the most powerful institutions of Ukraine, and creation of that narrative according to which the state should be working as well as the cultural community. So role and place of the state, the task of the state, all those procedures and regulations under which we have to act. Everything should be forecastable, predictable. All of the participants of the process should understand what could be the reactions to and response to their initiative on part of the state and on part of the community. So according to the example of European Union, we should enter the predictable cultural development. We should understand the goals and the ways to them. What are the programs that should be developed? How those programs should be funded? Who could be involved? So from manual management, we have to switch to scheduled format of activity. For culture, for artistic activity, it's not so inherent, because only emotion or the case sometimes formulates that artistic solution, resulting in the end key products in the area of culture, the art products. But no, all those people involved in general cultural management of some processes, and I'm talking about them, they should be guided by understandable regulations, relying on which every participant of the process, every artist could suggest their solution and know how it will be either supported or denied, but based on some clear criteria and arguments. This is exactly why we're talking, and this morning we were talking about improvement of specific regulations, not only the law of Ukraine on culture, but also sectoral law, the laws that identify the or determine the work of important Ukrainian institutions such as Ukrainian Institute of the Book, Ukrainian Cultural Institute, all of them should be improved too. We have very important units such as Ukrainian Institute of National Remembrance, which performs an important work in the context of formulating of narratives of Ukrainian identity, the return of some forgotten Ukrainian names, Ukrainian events, formulation of Ukrainian person based on patriotic foundation. And we hope that involvement of experts, involvement of the team of Mr. Volodymyr Vorobey, all those things will allow us to solve the tasks that are set in front of our ministry and all of our cultural community. I want to mention that we count not only help of those experts involved by Mr. Volodymyr, who will join the project thanks to the support of European Union, but also all other participants of the cultural process. They have to say their word, to provide their propositions, their suggestions, to make themselves heard. And this is why in the team of RES-POL there will be people who are communicators, who will work with their community, not only to be a press secretary, a spokesperson, but to play a role of those who will involve people to the project most initiative, those who support Ukrainian culture, those who want to make it better, who want to bring all of the processes in compliance with European standards to those standards that operate in the civilized world, and allow it to demonstrate the leadership of the civilized development. Obviously, we have to take into account the challenges of war. So to a significant extent, I want to ask the team of RES-POL to check out those tasks set in front of them, not only from the point of view of sustainable cultural development many years ahead, but also I want to ask them to find and to recommend the tools of operative response to the challenges that exist today. Everything that is related to the preservation of a cultural potential, ensuring involvement into the cultural processes of all citizens of Ukraine, both inside Ukraine and those who had to forcibly leave the country, or those who had to leave their homes and cannot realize themselves in a traditional way of life in a cultural form, those who keep trying to find themselves as the internally displaced persons and still cannot find them. We would like to find the solutions that allow us to ensure the most efficient involvement of resources in the restoration of cultural infrastructure that was affected and will be affected by the battle operations in the territories that are fortunately currently deoccupied and that will become deoccupied in future. So we will be asking our experts to work on development of the procedures, more mobile, more prompt, more operative, because time requires only prompt solutions. I'm seeing Larissa Artyukhina among the participants. She also has an experience of work in the Ukrainian Cultural Foundation. And Ms. Larissa, we would like to ask you and your colleagues, or everybody who was involved in the area of culture, to not be indifferent and get involved in all of the process to make them better, relying upon your experience. Sometimes the experience can be negative. For example, now we're talking about the necessity of development of the sponsorship law, sponsorship in the area of culture. After the first days, the Ukrainian volunteership has become a unique practice for all of the world, when all of the people, in addition to their tax obligations, also got involved in support of the armed forces of Ukraine, or rather humanitarian projects, with their own, investing their own funds, their own time or other resources. This is type of volunteership that in the area of culture was almost adjacent to sponsorship, and we want this movement to become systemic, to be structured, and this is where we would like to ask you to get involved in the development of the law of Ukraine that would regulate this area of activity. So given the potential of Ukrainian society to take decisions, their internal spiritual capacity, I mean, to get involved, to invest their own funds in the government projects, to support it with some systemic solutions, to allow business to feel themselves a full-fledged participants of the cultural development through their participation in funding of important government projects. And thus this law will be necessary and important. So when I've mentioned a negative experience, we have to take into account that this idea of the development of the law was not finding its support, and even that project that was voted by the Verkhovna Rada in the area of sponsorship of sport was not voted for. So we have to take into account all the shortcomings. Where did we seem to have done a great job, but it resulted to be inefficient? That was the case of Ukrainian Cultural Foundation. You all remember how many critique there was with regard to the previous team of the supervisory board. And it just happened so that Mr. Volodymyr was elected by the society as chairman of the board of the new supervisory council, so he will be in charge of modernizing this law. There's a lot of challenges, a lot of tasks, and the improvement, you know, it has no limits, even where everything seems to be pretty well regulated, because we have no other ways. There are two issues that we have to solve: the maximum level of synchronization of Ukrainian and European legislation to make sure that European values are brought into our practice, the transparent, fair and open procedures of decision making, and second, we have to clearly identify the role and place of the government in the cultural processes. That's a global task. And third, we have to find legislative tools for quick solutions for response of the government to the challenges of war. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Rostislav. Mr. Volodymyr, the project will be implemented within 15 months. So Mr. Minister has described the top level of the tasks of this project. So let's dive a little bit into the structure to see what's your plan for implementation of this project and what are the results that you're awaiting to see after the 15 months of work. So thank you very much for this opportunity to present our project, RES-POL. In its essence, even in its name, it's related to culture, creative industry, but the key thing are the policies. Unfortunately, people do not always understand what are the policies, because as Mr. Rostislav said, policies are about the place of and role of the state, but also for the sectors, who should do what for solution of some present issues. So as a society, we were very well oriented in terms of problems. And the first stage will be dedicated to the study of the problems in the key areas such as media, cultural heritage, art, creative industry. What are the essential issues, whether it's lack of funding or excessive regulation or access to infrastructure or other things? Is it a restitution of heritage or so on and so forth? So there are a lot of questions we have to ask, a lot of issues to research, and the next phase will be what to do about it, what are the policies that we have, what the sectors can do, what the communities could do, where is the need for the government support, what are the mechanisms, in what way the government can support it, inform it, reinforce it, assist, regulate, or create obstacles where it's necessary and feasible. Somewhere maybe give orders, and in some places maybe withdraw from regulation. So it's about the policies, it's about the solutions. So having the solutions, we can understand what will be done in the year 25. So that will be the 3 months when RES-POL will be working through the plans, whether it's the change and amendment of regulations or change of institutions, building of institutions, or support of some cases that we were able to find. So we are going to cover a lot of subsectors, because only art itself, there are more than 10 different types of it. Creative industries, they have more than 12 types of it. And RES-POL is going to cover all of those sectors and some sectors, so rushing a little bit ahead. For us, it's important for the experts to get involved from different sectors. Meanwhile, we're talking on our Facebook. There is a form that is being launched that you can fill and get involved as an expert, and we encourage people to join our project both as interested party and expert, because the key issue for us is the involvement of as much people as possible, so that all those solutions that we develop, so they are developed in a joint manner. Because when someone says that's we're doing it wrong, we're asking how should we do it. We have to find some joint solutions, and on top of the sectors, we have other issues that the ministry, having the big picture of the development of the sectors, that really need some development. For example, the system of salaries in the area of culture. How to make it attractive for the people if we want to bring people back to the cultural sphere. Or, as Mr. Rostislav mentioned, how different funds can be united in culture, like private, communal, or municipal and government funds. People who are facing those problems, they understand that it's almost impossible, which blocks a lot of initiative, preventing them from development. Or talking about national development, memorialization, decommunization. There's a war going on, there's a lot of death, a lot of things that we have to memorize, to preserve, to remember. How do we do it? In a Soviet way with traditional memorials, or in a specific Ukrainian way? So what is the role of Ukrainian Institute of National Remembrance that they fulfill? Maybe they need reinforcement. Maybe there are some initiatives of civil society that need to be scaled up, or funding of creative industries. For the time being, creative industries are the industries that create a lot of interesting workplaces, something that adds to the competitiveness of Ukrainian economy, and something that will allow us to have this post-war restoration, to create more workspaces, more workplaces. But how do we make sure we don't lose it? And how do we make sure that they survive until the end of war? You know, but so, for creative industries, not many government programs are available. They have no access to investing, no access to lending. Whether we're missing some mechanisms, don't we have any specific practices, or do we have them, but they should be scaled up, highlighted, and more people from financial sectors should be involved. So we have 10 some specific pressing issues. You can get familiarized with them on our website, and we will research what exactly is the problem. Why is there a lack of funding? What are the problems with memorialization and decommunization? What is the problem with the salaries? Unification of funding from different sectors. So we will find solutions, and based on those solutions, we will strategize the sector, strategize the role of the ministry, what should be the steps to be taken during the first, second, and third phase, and thus we will develop the amendments to the legislation, initiatives, programs. And I want to emphasize another important role of this project is preparation of operational programs for possible European funding. Since we are coming closer, we are being aided. We've heard about Ukraine facility, those 50 billions that are allocated for us, and we want to ask, what do they want to be funded in the area of cultural heritage, culture, creative industries, and what should be the mechanisms of those funding? What funds do we need? Why specifically for that project? What the amount? What kind of mechanisms again should be involved? And the role of our project is to suggest the architecture of operational programs in the area of creative industries, cultural heritage and arts. So what have I forgotten? Arts, cultural heritage and media, to make sure that we can use this opportunity to solve the pressing issues related to the war right here and right now, and those issues that will allow us to develop our competitiveness, to develop those cultural sectors and media sectors for post-war recovery. So that's the task of RES-POL project. We have to develop those policies, and we have to have 64 products, as they're called, 64 documents. Many may make fun that the documents will be the products of the project, but when somebody is asking what to do, sometimes we're seeing the blank glass eyes or just some standard responses in a bureaucratic way. So we want to have a coordinated list of what things we should do, what are the institutions we should establish. Again, I don't want to repeat myself, but how to amend the legislation, to uncork something, to reinforce something. And when we talk to our European partners, first of all, we are supposed as sectors and as a ministry, as the government authority, to understand what we're suggesting, why we're suggesting specifically that, because we're asking for aid, but why this aid and what it will result in. So the impact of this project will be the bigger institutional capacity, both of the ministry and the agencies like Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, Ukrainian Institute of the Book, Ukrainian Institute of National Remembrance, and State Art Service in development of the policies. So we're gonna get involved, the representatives of all those institutions, to our task force for communication, for discussion. So we want to implement this practice of debate, identification of new solutions coordinated with all of the agencies, not something adopted in the cabinets of some government bodies and then communicated to the society, because we're gonna get involved Ukrainians who are staying abroad. All of our events will be happening online with our access from anywhere, and we are curious about hearing the opinion of all those representatives of the sectors who left Ukraine, because we want them to come back, and to have them back they have to see themselves in the post-war Ukraine. What can they do there? Right away I'm having a question to you. We've heard about the team of the project, so I'm curious whether it's already created. Are there any names of the experts and how you can get involved? Thank you very much for this question. We already have a number of key sectoral experts talking about the cultural heritage. The task force is headed by Olga Sakaidak, the representative of Doha Fund. Ms. Olga was creating the Ukrainian Institute in Paris, and this year she's back from France, back to Kiev, and we are happy that she reinforced our program, that she joined our project and our expert team, and she's gonna head this area of cultural heritage, talking about creative industries. The head is Galina Shiyan, famous as a writer, and she was working as an publishing entrepreneur. She's very well familiar with the publishing business and communication area. So Galina and PPV agency will take care of creative industries as a sector, talking about the arts and culture sector. It's headed by Alona Karvai. She's the key expert. A lot of people in the art world, they know her as somebody who is guiding the programs on grading and re-guiding of cultural projects in the area of art, and they very well understand all the issues of this sector. Talking about the sector of media, we're still in the process of identification of key experts, but in all of those sectors we will need sub-sectoral experts, the members of the team, and we're actively encouraging everybody to fill the form in our website, in our Facebook page. Tell us about your expertise, specifically if you were taking part in development of the policies, debating, talking, implementing, guiding some processes. If you have your opinion, it's extremely important for us. We'll get in touch with you, and it will be a pleasure to have you on our team. we expect to cover at least 500 interested parties, and we will get at least 100 experts involved in the project whose work will be necessary on different stages of the project. Thank you very much. I would like to have Ms. Tetyana join us. We're hoping that you're seeing and hearing us. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Ms. Tetyana, the key question that we want to ask you, we would like to hear about your expectations from this project. We understand that you have your goal based on which you support the project. So what are your expectations? Basically, our goal is known. It's cooperation of European Union and Ukraine. It's a strategic goal itself, because the accession to European Union is now set as one of the goals of the organization itself for the next couple of years, and we would like it to happen in the most efficient manner possible. Secondly, we want to cooperate with a partner who is capable, who is creative, as we've mentioned many times today, and who will sit at the table with other partners with their agenda, with their strong sides and advantages, adding something to the union of all those states. And getting back specifically to the achievements of the project, I would like to highlight that the understanding with what we've started, support of the culture within this project, has a completely different sense. If previously we were starting our cooperation with some small project, like some repairs, exchanges, travels, some minimal reinforcement of the level of small cultural operators or small non-government organizations, now this project demonstrates the progress in the sector and the fact that the sector itself has enough capacity to enter into efficient dialogue with the state and to reform itself. And in my opinion, it's a very good beginning, and we will see to what extent this process will be effective. I hope it will be, because today you've seen Mr. Acting Minister, you've heard what Mr. Volodymyr is saying. The both parties are already in dialogue, which is already a good sign. The both parties are ready to cooperation, they're interested, which is yet another important premise for achievement of the results. And I'm absolutely confident about the expert capacity of Ukraine, and I'm sure that really the experts will join the project that are capable of transforming their personal experience into policies, into the development strategy, and to recreate culture and creativity, to transform them into advantages of Ukraine in the process of restoration that will allow the country to get restored in the most efficient and fast manner possible, with inclusive approach of all levels of population, not dependent on their age or gender. We have to understand that now we still don't have any possibility to orient at the standard model of population, that we have to work with all of the society. And here the culture and creativity, the skills, the crafts, the new approaches, new technologies, and so on. This is what allows doing it to the most efficient manner possible. So the cultural project is about the dialogue with the society. It's about the development with involvement of all interested and capable parties. And I hope that the policies developed within RES-POL project will support the process in that way. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Tetyana, our dear colleagues. If we have any questions or comments on the floor, please get involved. Але шершень Ukrinform, what is the budget of the project and how it will be distributed? Let me answer. The total budget of the project is over 800,000 euro. The budget was made based upon the estimate of the number of expert days. And again, I've mentioned that we have more than 64 these parts of the project, and the project will be happening online. So today is our first press conference, and I hope we will be having the last press conference where we will present all those policies that we mentioned today. So that will be a lot of work, a lot of translations to make sure that our European partners have access to analytical information, the analysis of the political processes within Ukrainian culture. We have to mention we have the accession to European Union, and a lot in the area of culture is in Ukrainian language, and all those processes happening, well, it's not a key part of our budget. The key part are the experts and their work. Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions? Good afternoon. Luciana Shum, Charitable Foundation, the Bibliotечна Країна, the country of libraries. Is the ministry ready to implement the developed strategies? Is there any KPI of the project? I mean the percentage of what is about to be implemented further on. Our goal is to make sure that all of the developments are implemented. This is exactly what we work for, not just to develop recommendations. You see, what's important, not only to identify where the problem is. We feel it one way or another, right? The experts will decipher it, they will make it more, they will describe it in a systemic way to demonstrate the source of the problem, but on top of it, they are not only going to provide recommendations of where to go, whom to get involved, but what they're going to give is what's important for us, a practical tool. And practical tool is something on paper or in electronic form, some specific procedural solutions, the text of the laws, the text of the orders, the text of the government decisions, clear logistic schemes. If we will have to amend something in the procedures, not only in the procedures, but in the general structure of the cultural processes, I mean, to create some institutions, to liquidate some institutions, to reorganize some of them, that's yet another decisions. So they are all documents, whether resolutions or orders, and this is why Mr. Volodymyr paid a lot of attention to the fact that the result of the work will be specific documents, but behind those documents, in case of their adoption, there will be clear and understandable practical solutions, and we want them to be implemented. This is exactly we've asked the European Union to help us. The delegation of European Union in Ukraine got involved, Mr. Volodymyr got involved with his team to find the answers that we need. This is why we would like to implement it all. It's clear that there will be some unpredictable problems in this way. There will be a lack of resource, absence of resource, that will be an obstacle. In some cases there will be a resistance of the society or some sectoral groups who are not always favoring the changes, who are afraid of those changes. But this is exactly why this work is happening, and to explain something and in some ways to adopt some directives to make sure that all of the procedures and processes in the area of culture are more modern and efficient. Let me add, I think that it's unreal to expect that all of the 100% are implemented. This is exactly what we will aspire to, but we will be happy that at least 20% of them are implemented. But if at least something is picked up, our key KPI will be who picked up our solution. You know, the solution developed by our project, whether it's implemented by the ministry or the deputies in the parliament or the operators of creative industries, where no changes or amendments to the legislation are necessary. It's just that people didn't know that you can do things in this way. So for us, this desire to use our solutions, that will be indicator of our impact, because the result is the solutions, but again, the way they influence is how people pick them up, who use them. Because as a team, we don't start from the scratch. We're not saying we have nothing. We review the draft laws, the initiatives, the ideas of previous projects to understand what we can use out of them, can we continue. We are just a small fraction, a 15-month project that did not start in vacuum, and it will not end in vacuum. We understand that some things were already done, but we have to understand what was the problem with implementation of those initiatives that were developed. But we have examples of fantastic initiatives in Ukraine that worked. We can, for example, analyze them in different way. There was no Institute of Ukrainian Book, and it emerged, we have such a mechanism of support. Remember that before the war we were spending 1,000 for books, so we will evaluate the impact of it. That will be the first evaluation of e-support and institutional support that was extended during COVID, and what it resulted in. So probably those are the mechanisms that we can use more actively in post-war recovery, rather than neglecting them because they work with us. We have such mechanisms, and those are just the minor examples of what we can review and understand what can be used, and some where we will try to find some political or policy entrepreneurs, those who pick up those policies either in the session hall, in their ministry, or in sector, continue advocating and lobbying those challenges. So we understand we don't work for the results, for the documents, we work for the competitiveness of the Ukrainian cultural sectors, and we work for the capable ministries and agencies, Institute of National Remembrance, Institute of Ukrainian Institute of Book, and so on and so forth, those who can work with those policies and implement them in the post-war recovery. Thank you very much, dear friends. Do we have any more questions on the floor? Larissa Pokalchuk, film director and colleague of Mr. Volodymyr, and ex-colleague in the Ukrainian Cultural Foundation. I have two questions. First, about Ukrainian Cultural Foundation. Do I understand it correct that one of the products that you're about to prepare are the proposals and suggestions to the amendments to the law on Ukrainian Cultural Foundation? And another question, why didn't you take the State Cinematic Foundation? You cover all of the sectors apart from the cinema. So what was the logic behind it? Do you have any plans in this relation? It's clear that for the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy there will be a lot of useful things. We understand that Ukrainian Cinema Foundation is now a part of, is under Cabinet of Ministers, not under the ministry, but if we have a whole lot of crisis here, maybe you should cover us too. So talking about Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, we contemplate the evaluation of institutional capacity of all those agencies, and it's clear that Ukrainian Cultural Foundation itself is a mechanism, is a tool of implementation of the policies. And when we look at the development of the sectors, obviously we will be able to understand what's the role of Ukrainian Cultural Foundation there, whether they're necessary there or not. So the project looks at it without some agenda, and as the policies emerge, we can start having questions about renewal of the strategy or reinforcing of some impact. And what's good about it is that we have this gradual movement, and I will be ready to put it up on the table, that in the Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, there is the new supervisory board. Today was the inaugurational meeting. If RES-POL comes up with some initiatives, if we see any things that are important for adaptation of Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, we will be able to talk about it. So it's not like RES-POL is supposed to say something to somebody, but we will do everything that we can to adjust the role of Ukrainian Cultural Foundation to make it more of a capable institution, an institution that we can take pride in. Talking about the cinema, you've answered yourself in terms that the project is coordinated with the representation of the European Commission, and all those institutions were taken that are a part of responsibility of the ministry. This is why we couldn't work with the Ukrainian Cinema Foundation, because they have a different procedure of coordination since they submit to the Secretariat of Cabinet of Ministers. I think that the policies that we are about to develop can be useful for those institutions, but this institution, you know, it's behind the field of vision of the RES-POL project, at least de jure. So let me continue this question about focus on 4 sectors that you've mentioned. I'm curious about creative industry. It's a very important area in my opinion, but I'm curious how it emerged on the list of those sectors. To the extent that you can remember, if you are curious about this topic, in our country we have 35 types of economic activity that are classified as activity in the area of creative industries. So if we check Wikipedia and other sources, including European ones, there is a different interpretation of what is creative industry, creativity, creative culture. We have some divergences in European and Ukrainian way of construing it. In Europe, all the cultural production that we can talk about is covered by this sphere: music, theater, performance art. And so creativeness as an art, you know, as creative industries, it doesn't mean that we are doing something wrong. We just focus on our thing. In this case, understanding the creative industry as participation of art practices, creative people in formulation of economic product that added value, that makes it more competitive in the market, in more demand in the market, due to involvement of artists in its creation. And as we say on this example, we can say, why do we need this product? The paper cup, it's for drinking water. It can not be colored, it can be blank white, it will fulfill its function. But in this case, the work of the designer was involved, the work of the designer both on the shape and on the colors. Well, it's made for a different purpose, but it could bear some popular Ukrainian ornament, and visiting a general store, you would probably buy this product as more aesthetic. It could be more expensive than regular paper cup. And most likely it's exactly the input of the artist, of a creative person into this product. Yeah, it makes it more expensive, but in that way more profitable for the manufacturer. This is why we're saying that in every product we want to have a creative component, so it's more ergonomic, more attractive, more interesting, more aesthetic. And all those industries where, as Mr. Volodymyr mentioned, a lot of people are involved with creative way of thinking. All those industries, they produce a lot of workspaces for the workers in the area of art as such. On a global level, the designers, And, well, first of all, the designers, I guess. Well, even the literature editors, the writers, back in the beginning of the 90s, when the new Ukrainian literature was being burned, all the names that we know, Zhadan, Andrukhovich, well, all of them that we know today as famous Ukrainian leaders of Ukrainian writer movement, they were journalists. It was their job. But at the same time, they were finding themselves as writers, and many designers that we know who work with some large companies, in fact, they are the artists, painters, or maybe in the artists in the area of monumental art. And we see that in creative sphere of the business, there's a lot of people working with a high artistic level, professional artistic level, and they don't only make some profit to maintain a lifestyle, but also they add creativity and art to the products that they work on, to creation of which they are involved. But talking about the art forms, the creative industries includes such things as the computer games, as fashion, and many other things, where the key function belongs to economy, or not classical academic and art function. But even there, people with creative thinking are involved, which is important to make sure that in creation of any product there should be more creativeness in its value, involvement of more people with creative thinking, the new workplaces, new jobs, and there's scaling up of their experience to other areas like academics and scientific. I want to thank you for this great job. It's almost always that the joint work of government and private sector inspires the Ukrainians and gives us hope it will produce some good result. I want to thank all of you and our security and defense forces, thanks to whom we have this opportunity to have events like this. Let's continue working together for our victory. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes.